Original.
Hello and welcome to Web Crawlers, the podcast where we do a deep dive into some of our favorite mysteries. Each week we will introduce our topic, lay out our research and findings, reveal some conspiracy theories, and conclude with our own hypothesis. I am Allie Siegel.
I am Melissa Stettin.
And I, producer Maria.
Wow, we have a lot of patrons today. Melissa, who are our new patrons?
We have Sierra, Danielle, Darkness Loves Us, Carrie, Gia, Ashley, Laura, Bree, and Jacob. Welcome.
Guys, welcome to the team. So exciting. All right. Today's episode has been one that we've had planned for a while. We're finally going to do it. It's a real sticky situation.
No, Allie, come on.
No. It is the maple syrup heist. Actually, surprisingly, the largest crimes in history. In 2012, 3,000 tons of maple syrup were stolen from what's called the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup in Quebec. What am I saying?
Quebec.
Quebec, like croissant. Quebec.
Quebec. I'm just going to say Canada then for the rest of the episode. At the time, maple syrup was like $2,000 a barrel, which is 30 times the price of gas.
Damn.
Oh my God.
I know. So like Canada is like the Saudi Arabia of maple syrup. Like it's a huge, expensive commodity. The total amount of maple syrup that was stolen was valued around $18 million.
Damn.
So this is the same as like stealing like rubies or art. It's just as bad stealing someone's maple syrup. To this day, it's the most expensive heist in Canadian history. What happened? Let's get into it. So Quebec takes maple syrup very seriously. It's like wine in France. Their flag is a maple leaf. Yep. And they keep the global reserve of maple syrup.
Crazy.
Here's something I didn't know through my research. Like what we have in America is not maple syrup.
What are you talking about?
I mean, you can buy maple syrup. No, but Aunt Jemima and all that other stuff is not maple syrup.
No, it's like made of like corn syrup.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just syrup. It doesn't even say maple on it. It's like pancake syrup, waffle syrup. Yeah, it's not made of maple.
Wow.
I gotta go. I gotta go.
I don't even know if I've legitimately ever had maple syrup.
Oh, I have. Being married to a Canadian and all. We get the real stuff.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure. Like real maple syrup is like $16 a jar.
Dang.
And when you go to the market and you get a thing of Aunt Jemima, which by the way is super racist name.
They changed the name.
Did they? It's like $4, and it's because it's not really made of maple, all this, and it's not part of this federation.
They call it the Pearl Milling Company.
It says that on the bottle now?
I believe so.
Interesting. Here's why this whole thing is so crazy. In 1966, a government-sanctioned organization decided to kind of run a monopoly on maple syrup. They're called the Federation, like I said, of... Just be fine, guys, with how I'm pronouncing Quebec.
That's good.
Quebec maple syrup. They fix maple syrup prices. They impose production quotas on producers. So, for example, if you're an independent producer of maple syrup, like if you have your own, what they call a sugar bush, and
Allie.
Allie, that's disgusting.
If you, like me, have a sugar bush and you are tapping maple syrup, the Federation will be like, you can only make this much per year or something. And any surplus you have to give to us. They enforce other regulations, and also everything that's sold, I think they take a certain percentage of it. And these independent producers hate the Federation. They call them like the maple syrup cartel. They say they're a communist regime. They compare them to the mafia. They call them a regime of terror. They're like all these independent producers are like, they're stealing our money. They're telling us what to do. And we're just trying to get our farm on. This is crazy. So there's no free maple syrup market. And some farmers were so mad about the Federation and what it was doing to the economy and their business that they started to sell black market maple syrup.
Damn.
And that was called barrel rolling. So like here we have like, or not here, but like around here at Web Crawlers, here like around the world, there's like black market organ trades. In Canada, there's black market maple syrup, and it's like a really
It's the most
underground
Canadian thing ever. Like the nicest
I
black
know,
market.
it's so pure. It's so sweet. Literally, no pun intended. There are 13,500 maple syrup producers in Quebec, and each one has a fixed amount that they can produce each year. They get audited and they get checked on by the Federation. So they'll come to their farm and they'll test the quality of the syrup. They'll inspect it. They'll check out their trees and they'll make sure no nonsense or barrel rolling is going on.
That's crazy. Even if you have these trees on your own land, you can't just like selling the fruit off your trees. You can't just do that. It's all regulated.
No. And it's also not an option. You have to join the Federation if you're in Quebec. You can't opt out of it. The Federation, it keeps $54 per barrel.
Jeez.
And they do that for advertising.
And they're
what,
$2,000 a barrel?
Yeah. Like, what is it? Patreon? Crazy.
Dang, shots fired. Wow.
I know.
Damn.
And they do this so that maple syrup prices don't go too high or too low. And also so that Canada can be like the premier maple syrup empire, because the reserve is for the world. Like all this surplus of maple syrup, they ship it all around the world because, pancake needs because of all the pancake needs that people have. So these reserves that the Federation have are kept in warehouses in rural Quebec towns, and people own these warehouses. So someone might own a warehouse and the Federation is like, we're going to lease your warehouse to keep our barrels of excess.
Right.
And they're like, okay. So there's all these different little warehouses that hold the excess. Side tour, Maria, didn't you recently tap some maple syrup?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. So
Will you tell us about the experience?
yes, I will. Wow. Okay. So
Sorry to put you on the spot.
no.
Yeah, I did. I should have told you beforehand that I was going to ask
I'm
this
ready
question.
to go.
I'm really
I've
sorry.
been waiting for this day for a long time. So Craig and I, where we're staying, we've got some maple trees in the backyard. And so we thought, well, why not try
Are you in Canada?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I'd say you're near.
I'm near, or maybe I'm in. So we've got some maple trees and we thought, well, let's tap this shit out of these. So
How do you tap it? How do you tap
You
it?
tap
Take
it
us
with
through the
you
process.
knock on it like it's hello.
you knock on it, you say hello.
Sir?
Would you like
Garçon?
Would you like to come out? No, on Amazon you can order just some maple syrup taps. Basically, it's a little spout, and you just use a drill bit. You drill into the tree a couple inches in, and then you tap in the spout, just like a spout that you'd put on any sort of like container that you wanted to get liquid out of. And then you attach like a long tube so that it goes down, and then you just put like a gallon jug under the tube. So it's literally just like creating a hole in a spout so that this stuff can flow out. We did it a little too late because you're supposed to do it. The prime time to tap is when it's 40 degrees during the day and below freezing at night. So we did it a little later where it was like maybe like 50 degrees during the day and then like 39, 40 during night. But basically, you need 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. Like that's how much you need.
Jesus.
Because you have to like boil it down.
So you have to boil it down. So we got about a gallon and a half of sap.
Wow.
Because we only tapped, but it was it's not a lot. So then you have to start the boiling outside, which we didn't do because we didn't have enough. But because
you can't boil inside.
You can't boil inside.
Oh, because everything just like turns sticky.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, it just like, because so much steam comes out, it would literally like be like being in a sauna or whatever, because everything in your kitchen would start to peel because it would just be water everywhere. So they say to start the boiling process outside on like just a fire, and you boil and boil. And because when you taste the sap, there's nothing sweet about it really. It literally tastes like just tree water. That's all it tastes like. And guys, like if you go online, you can watch guys that have collected the sap and they're drinking it like coconut water. They're like, this is just fresh water that's been purified through a tree.
Yeah, it's called maple water, and that's another byproduct that they sell is maple water.
Craig tasted it. I tasted a little bit. It just tastes like a nutty water. It just tastes like a really pure, just nature water.
Almond water.
Like it's it's a little crazy and quirky.
Yeah, it's nutty. It's nutty as hell.
It's a little nutty.
Yeah. A little wacky. It's wacky water. That's what I sell it as, wacky water. You go outside and you boil it, and it's literally like just boiling water for pasta. Basically, it's just for hours. You just boil it. Then you want to bring it inside. So then once it starts, you'll see it start to get a little syrupy, and then you want to really keep an eye on it, because then now you're getting into like it's gonna burn territory, and it's gonna
Ooh.
Although a watched pot never boils.
And that's true too. And that's true. So what happened was, because we had such a small amount, when it boiled down, when it started to get syrupy, we were watching it with a thermometer. So once it gets to, I think it's 219 degrees Fahrenheit is when you need to stop boiling it. When we stopped, it was basically like honey. So it didn't have like the wateriness
like a
of
caramel
syrup
or something. Yeah.
We did it for a little too long. But before you take it out, you have to, when you strain it. So like when it gets to, when most of the water's gone, then you want to strain it to get all the crystallized stuff out and all the dirt and everything. And then you put it back in the pot. So anyway, so we got out of a gallon and a half, we got like 2 inches. We got like a quarter cup of.
Did you taste it?
We tasted it. I used it to make maple bacon. So then I
nice.
Coated some bacon in it, and then I put it in the oven, and it was like candy bacon.
Whoa.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Wow. So one might say that you have a sugar bush.
I think you're onto something.
All right. Well, thank you. That was really illuminating. Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, what's even crazier is that a bunch of angry farmers who were just sick of the Federation decided to Ocean's 11 this bitch.
Hell yeah.
And steal a whole bunch of the maple syrup. Let's break this down. On August 24th, 2012, imagine this. The Federation goes into one of their warehouses to check on their maple syrup like they always do. They do these incremental, checks to taste the maple syrup, make sure everything's going well. And they notice during these routine inspections, the barrels are empty. Some of them are empty. Some of them are filled with water.
No.
That old trick. Yeah, it's like in high school when you refill your parents' vodka with water and suddenly they're like, Allie, think you have a problem. So the Federation calls the cops and they're like, get everyone you have. The syrup has been stolen.
It's 3 police officers for all of Canada.
No. This is what's so crazy is hundreds and hundreds of police officers were on the scene because this is $18 million worth of stuff.
Yeah.
The Royal Mounties in their little red costumes and U.S. Customs came to try to figure this out.
Wow.
There's this Vanity Fair article which really well explains what happened. And also there's a Netflix documentary called Dirty Money.
It's really good.
And one of the episodes is on the heist and it's great. But there's this quote from the Vanity Fair article that says, Try to think up this scenario, and it's impossible. Syrup is heavy and sticky. How do you hide it? What do you get to smuggle it? Where can you sell it? It's like stealing salt out of the sea. So they met with 223 witnesses, and eventually they got to the bottom of the crime.
Bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. They reached the bottom of the barrel of this sticky situation, and they figured out what happened. So this person, Vic Caron, owned one of the storage facilities where the Federation was storing their excess syrup. And he was one of these farmers or one of these owners who was like, I don't like what the Federation is doing. Here's all this syrup that's like going to waste. They're hoarding it. They're gluttonous. People should be making money out of this. I want to do something about it. And so a friend of his introduced him to this guy, Richard Valliere.
Oh,
He was he was the candelabra in Beauty and the Beast.
Hell yeah, he was.
wow.
Just kidding. No, just kidding.
Oh, I really
so
believed
he
you.
was.
I was like, he played Lumiere. That's so
I know, I
dope.
could tell. So he was a barrel roller. So he was one of these guys who was on the black market syrup chain. Vic was like, Richard, I would like to try to smuggle out some of this maple syrup and make some money to it. Do you know anyone who might be interested in buying it? And there was this guy, Etienne St. Pierre, who was a maple syrup buyer, but he operated outside of Quebec. So he worked outside the Federation and he wasn't like subject to their laws. And he said, sure, I'll take this maple syrup. I don't know where it's coming from, though. Okay. So he was trying to stay out of it. And then there was this guy named Sebastian Jutras who drove the truck. And Sebastian's alibi was also like, I don't know where all this maple syrup's coming from. Okay. So a bunch of them tried to stay out of it. So this is from the National Post, and it's describing how they did this, how they got away with it. Because if you think about it, like a barrel of maple syrup, it's so heavy, and they're smuggling thousands of them over and over again through years. So it says, beginning in the summer of 2011, the thieves used a tractor trailer to load up barrels filled with syrup from the spring harvest. The barrels were transported to a sugar shack belonging to Raymond Valliere. Raymond Valliere is the father of Richard Valliere. He owned this sugar shack where they were emptied and filled with lake water, and then they'd return them to the warehouse. Oh. When the lake froze over, the syrup transfer operation moved to the warehouse in Montreal. In the end, the thieves drained the barrels directly at the Federation warehouse, and they do that like in the middle of the night so they couldn't be like assuming no one would see them. In total, around 10,000 barrels were surreptitiously emptied, representing more than half of the reserve that the Federation maintained to keep prices stable. And it wasn't until August that the staff grew suspicious when they noticed that barrels were dirty, rusty, containers were tapped, some sounded empty, etc. And I forgot to say this earlier, but I guess it's kind of funny. Like, obviously, barrels filled with maple syrup are heavy. And I guess the inspector in August, when he was doing the inspection, tried to like climb up on a few barrels, and he didn't know that some were empty, and he almost fell off because like the barrel was empty and he couldn't balance on it.
Sad.
Yeah, like a clown. Like he just like fell off the barrel, and he was like, "Why is this barrel
Think
so
of how
light?"
scary that must have been for him.
I know. Traumatizing. Climbing to the top of a bunch of barrels, and the top one's just empty, and he almost falls off.
What I can relate that to is when you take like what you think is going to be Sprite, but it's water. You know, like you take a sip of what you think is Sprite and it's water, and you kind of it's so shocking.
That happens all the time to me.
Or you know what it feels like? You know, when you're in a dream and all of a sudden you like fall in your dream. That's probably exactly what it felt like for him.
Yeah.
And then he realized, shit, even scarier, everything's stolen. The investigation led to 26 different arrests on theft, conspiracy, and fraud.
Dang.
And 5 people received sentences. First is Richard Valliere, the quote unquote ringleader. He was sentenced in 2017 to 8 years in prison and a $10 million fine and 14 years if he does not pay the fine. Richard claims that an unknown man who was disguised came up to him with a gun and said, "You need to steal all these barrels." And so that's why he did it. These people have like the worst alibis of all time. It's kind of funny.
I don't know. I believe it. It happens.
Yeah, that happens all the time. Every time I make a bad decision, it's because some unknown person with a gun just came up to me. In America, that's actually plausible. Raymond Valliere, the father of Richard, who owns this sugar bush shack, was just convicted of possession because the merch was at his farm. Etienne St. Pierre, the guy who bought the syrup, he's the reseller. He was in New Brunswick. He was convicted. He told the jury, "You can't prove what tree the syrup came from, okay?" And then when he was found guilty of fraud and trafficking, he like flipped out in court. He got in a tussle with like the bailiff and he had to be dragged away. Like he got really upset. Also, another really cute thing about this is like the Mounties are in their little red costumes. And then in court in Canada, they have to wear like, I think it's like England, you know, like I think they wear the wigs and stuff.
I love those.
Like this is so cute, all about maple syrup. And like, I think they wear little outfits because in the Netflix documentary, okay, they don't wear wigs, but they have to wear these like black capes with little white like bow tie things.
That's neat.
Oh, and here's a picture of them from Christmas, and it looks like they're all dressed as Santa. So that's kind of cute.
What?
Web Crawlers has a Patreon to get access to rewards, bonus episodes, shout outs, videos a day early, ad-free episodes. Please go to patreon.com/webcrawlers. You can donate as little as $2 a month to become one of our bimbo patrons. Also, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. If you give us a 5-star review, we will read it on our mailbag episodes. Also, Erios has a hotline. Insert jingle here.
626-604-6262.
We love playing your voicemails. We are like backed up. We have so many voicemails. So please keep them coming and we will play them on our mailbag. Also, have we figured out the P.O. Box debacle yet? Don't send us anything right now.
Well, oh God. So we got a letter from someone who has owned our P.O. Box for 30 years, and apparently they didn't pay for a month, and that makes the P.O. Box become available. So I was on a waiting list. And so there's a letter in the mailbox that was like, "Please, can I have this box back?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure." And so I emailed him, but I have not heard back. That was like a few days ago. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll keep you posted on what's going on with that.
Okay, Vic Caron, the one who owned the warehouse, was sentenced to 5 years in prison, a $1.2 million fine, and then Sebastian, the trucker, served 8 months in prison.
Okay.
So the whole thing in this, the Federation still exists. People are upset because they say drugs are decriminalized, but they have criminalized maple syrup. Crazy, biggest heist in Canadian history, $18 million. Thankfully, they got to the bottom of it. They still have not found all the maple syrup, though.
Oh.
So that's still missing.
Was it sold off?
Yeah. So they don't know, but I imagine that they sold it off and made a profit.
Dang.
But this led me to question, like, are there other food heists? And yes, there are other huge food heists that have happened.
I love a food heist.
Me too.
I do every midnight. That leftover porridge.
A little pantry heist. In 2014, 260 tons of chocolate disappeared from the Lindt warehouse in Milan, Italy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. 2 delivery guys were later arrested for the theft. Then the Munster cheese burglar. In 2013, a man from Illinois was charged with grand theft after he made off with 42,000 pounds of Munster cheese worth $200,000 from a Wisconsin facility.
Whoa.
Then another guy stole $65,000 worth of frozen chicken wings in Atlanta in 2013, causing a shortage of wings for that year's Super Bowl.
Oh.
The wings were never found.
No, they were eaten in my stomach.
Yeah, they were eaten. Then once in 2013, thieves took $100,000 worth of hamburger meat in New Jersey. In
Cool.
2012, 140,000 pounds of walnuts were taken from a Northern California farm, which were worth $300,000.
What?
Oh, and then here's another Canadian crime. In Ontario, Canada, 40,000 pounds of beef were stolen. Beef still not found. Neither are the robbers. And then soup in Florida in 2013, there was a 30-mile highway chase because a man took $75,000 worth of Campbell's soup cans.
Wow.
I know. And then there's here's my favorite one. A Nutella crime.
Ooh.
In 2013, thieves in Germany took $20,000 worth of Nutella. That's 50,000 jars
Oh my God.
of the spread. And they got away with it. They have it. They took it. They probably sold it or ate it. So food crimes actually more lucrative than you think. Probably way easier to sell than stealing a painting or anything like that.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. So to this day, this is one of the biggest crimes I think that has ever happened. And they were at one time, I found out when reading this Vanity Fair article that it was one time going to be made into a movie starring my brother. But I guess
Does he know about
I guess since he did, I texted it to him and he said, "Oh, that must be a really old article." I think they're no longer planning on making the movie, I guess.
They should.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
a
they
cool
should.
story.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
I have a Canadian here waiting if we want to talk to a Canadian.
Yeah.
I can go
Let's
grab
bring him
him
in.
real quick.
Wow, there she goes. She went sliding out of the room. Hey, Martin, how's it going?
Hello, Maria. Hi. How are you?
Hi, Martin. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for asking. How are y'all?
We're doing fantastic. We just did we're doing an episode on the maple syrup heist.
Sure.
One of the biggest crimes in all of Canada.
I mean,
The biggest crime is letting this guy come to America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Hey. Oh, man. Or it's actually probably giving you citizenship. Don't you have citizenship now, Melissa?
Come on now. I'm a guest. I'm a guest for the podcast.
My first question is, how do you pronounce Quebec?
Yeah, you did it. It's Quebec.
I did.
Yeah.
Quebec.
Yeah. I mean, in England, they would pronounce it differently. I won't do the French Canadian pronunciation because I'll probably get it wrong. But yeah, Quebec.
Because Melissa and Maria told me I was pronouncing it wrong.
How did they pronounce it?
Quebec.
I mean, sure. Look, you can do that, but
I'm fine, right?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. I just want to get a Canadian.
You don't want to get into like Quebec. Like you get into that, and that's you're wrong.
That's too much.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you in Canada at the time of this event?
Well, this is becoming an investigation. This is Allie trying to see if you have a connection to it.
Yeah. Why do I feel like
Where were you?
I feel like I'm in the hot seat here, all like immediately about my citizenship, worried about where. Now it's like, where were you? You know, Allie, I was not involved. I was not involved in this heist. Is that?
Do you know how to tap maple syrup?
Yes, I do. Yes, I. Well, sure.
Maria, just have some. Were you in Canada around this time, or like, do you remember it being a big
No,
deal?
I had moved to the United States prior to that. So no, when in 2012 was it? Do you remember?
August 24th, 2012.
I was in LA.
But
I'm pretty sure I was.
They
in
were
LA.
smuggling it from 2011. All right, we're gonna have to check that out. But sure, we are trying to get to the
I
bottom
honestly
of it.
don't remember it being a thing until I watched it on like whatever that Dirty Money thing, and I was like, "Oh, neat." But I had left I was not watching the Canadian news as much as I should as a Canadian to keep up. It wasn't. I don't believe it was the like seismic event that the documentary makes it out to be. But again, I wasn't living there. Like it was a big deal.
Oh, all right. Well, so don't listen to this podcast because it's actually not a big deal.
Okay.
Well, I have a question. So we're learning about how there's like this whole that the maple syrup industry is like a crazy industry.
Yeah.
Growing up in Canada, is it known that this is like, there's this hierarchy in the maple syrup industry and people don't have the freedom to kind of own their own maple syrup completely?
Yeah, I mean, look, this might come as a surprise to you, and I am sorry. I'm sorry if it does. Not all Canadians spend an enormous amount of time just like drilling down into like the nitty gritty of the maple syrup industry. It's not a Sunday dinner conversation about like who controls Big Maple. Like it's not.
I did ask you that question
It's
as
a
though
rich
you were the
country
expert.
filled with dynamic people doing dynamic things, a variety of interests and stuff. Like this is maybe a systemic thing, but I did not question where my maple syrup came from. It was, we bought it from local purveyors in Ontario, and I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ontario's outside the Federation.
Yeah. Well, Quebec is only a province. There are 10 provinces and several territories in Canada. And so how it works in Quebec for Quebec maple syrup isn't necessarily how it would work in Ontario where I lived. Much like state to state, there are different rules.
Okay, so they're playing by the rules.
What is Canada?
What is Canada? Canada's a country. It's your neighbor to the north. It's the second biggest country in the world as far as land mass goes.
Crazy.
We have a population of about 36 million, I think, which is not a lot.
Do you notice the different how maple syrup tastes down here compared to up there?
Oh yeah.
Really?
No. This is going to be cut, right? I'm not going to. Is this a disappointment? No, I mean like.
I like it.
I mean, like maple syrup was a big deal, but it was like a big deal, like if you grew up in Vermont too. Like it's just like whatever your local thing is, like I remember they would take us out to McSkimming's farm. We lived in Ottawa, and there was McSkimming's farm, which is an educational farm, and they would let you go tap a tree. And then you would, and then collect a barrel, and then you would help, what do they do? Steam it or boil it or whatever. And then, you roll it in the snow and you make like little weird pops. Have you ever done that?
Oh, that's fun.
You go out front and then you just put maple syrup in the snow, and then you take a popsicle stick and you roll it up because it starts to kind of chill. And then you roll it up, and then
they did that on in the Little House on the Prairie books.
There you go.
And I swear to God, I have wanted to do that my entire
You
life.
don't have to swear. We believe you. It's not.
I was not in Canada in 2012. When you said that, I was like, have I done that before? Why is that such a vivid memory? And then I remembered they do that on the Little House of the Prairie books, and I wanted to do that my entire life.
I remember my I think I was in grade 4, and we went to McSkimming's farm. It was a thing like every kid did every year. You know, like your school would take turns going to. They had eggs and stuff, and my parents gave me money to buy a bottle of maple syrup up there because it was great maple syrup, and someone dared me to just drink it on the bus ride home.
Martin, oh no, God. What happened?
I mean, you know, I drank it. I drank half of a bottle of maple syrup. It was great because it was fresh. It was like a little smoother on the finish. I don't know. Well, this won't be all right.
This has been illuminating. Martin, if people want to follow you online or anything like that, or ask you any maple syrup questions,
sure, they can watch Kung Fu on the CW. It's a great show. And
awesome.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Well, I'm sorry to have been probably a great disappointment.
No, it was great having a Canadian in here.
I apologize that my Canadianness wasn't enough and that I don't know enough about the maple syrup heist.
No, this is perfect.
And, of which I was not in Canada for. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Great seeing y'all.
Martin.
Thank you. Hard-hitting investigative journalism.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to have a guest.
Professional Canadian.
Yeah, professional Canadian, full-time Canadian.
Wow.
All right. Well, Melissa, if people want to reach us, where can they do so?
You can email us at webcrawlerspod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We got a Patreon too. Everything's in the show notes.
Yes, please. And once we figure out our new P.O. box, please, if you're from Canada, send us some maple syrup. We would love to, as long as it's like packaged, and don't send us like from your trees, because
that's illegal.
That we might get weird about poison. And who knows? We don't want to end up in the slammer. Anyways, I am Allie Sugarbush Siegel.
I'm Melissa Sugar Shack Stetton.
And I'm Maria Barrel Tap Blasucci.
Yeah, I like it.
Nailed it.
Bye.
An Erios original.
Powered by Acast.